Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let's get started. Come on in the room. Just going to take a few moments just to breathe and adjust my camera as I always do here. I just want to make sure you can see me, I can see you, and we can do this together today. So just take a breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just a natural. And then relax your shoulders. In through your nose and out through your mouth. So grateful for this. This is a beautiful course. So grateful. Just grateful to be in this space with you today. Take a moment if you have been moving in your day as well. And let's go on and get started here. All right, y'all. So I'm going to just stop the music really quickly. If you can take a moment to share this out and get this to your friends. We want to give folks a chance to get in here today. My spirit is full, and I really want to be very succinct in my sharing today as we continue the discussion. I don't have any guests today right now. If you'd like to be a guest next week and share your story, your freedom story, I would like to invite you to join me next week. I think we need to finish the month of September. Where am I? Finish the month of February in this discussion. And so I want, the freedom stories were so powerful on last week that it just has not released me. If anything, it has created more of a reason, a decision to stay with this just because of your inboxes and your sharing. It has been absolutely amazing. If you're on YouTube and you want to participate in the conversation, join us in Rebirth Woman on Facebook. I'm LaTanya Taylor, affectionately known as the Rev Coach. And I'm just trying to get folks in here right now just because when I go live here, normally it lets you share out with folks that we're live. So I just want to just invite you to join us and to share as well. So I'm trying to do something here while y'all are coming in. Hey everybody, Lottie Dottie and everybody. Good. I appreciate those of you who are popping in to say hello or whatever you got going on there. I'm just you may see it and you can forward it in your inbox. I probably should do this ahead of time, but it gives folks time to get in here. Good. Welcome on in. Welcome in. Welcome in. I see you coming in the room. Come on in the room. Come on. I keep hearing sounds. I don't know what the sounds are that I'm hearing. Let me know if you all can see me. Anybody on my team, let me know. I want to open up a real succinct conversation with you. And I want it to be a benefit. And I know that everybody in Rebirth Woman are at different stages of our life. And, we're just at different stages of our experience. So I pray that this will be valuable to you all, to those of you who are listening or have listened. You with me? Okay. So let me get on in here and share this good old word that's been marinating in my spirit. I have to say it like that, because I can't make this shit up, honestly, to be honest with you. I can't make this up. So I know it says that it won't let you share just because we're using a third party. That's why. So here, Keela, I'm going to send you this note and you can share it to our regulars because some of them don't get the alert this way. and I forgot to send it out through those of you who are subscribed to Rebirth Woman to get the bonus alerts and that type of thing. But there's a way for you all to add this to your calendar. So let me just get on into this so I can get in here and get out. You know, we've been talking about freedom, and it's brought up a lot for people, you know. And I want to continue the discussion. And what I want to do is I want to put some draws on it, as they say in the South. I want to put some draws on this conversation because we've been out there and in the wind, and we started at a very high level where we were talking with many people who were clergy or ministers in that respect. And clergy for many of you is still something up there. And the reason why I brought those who are in ministry or been in pastoral ministry as we have known it for the church, the reason why I brought your sisters in is so that you, those of you who are still walking your journey, that you can see that you will not be forsaken, that, you know, spirit is not done with you yet. The good work in you will be completed. It will be completed in many ways. I want the women who are here, who are listening, to know that you are magical, that it is your birthright to live free, not just to do it conceptually, but freedom is going to mean different things for everyone in a group like this, where we are exploring freedom. And some of you are at different stages. So the stage for the neophyte who is discovering freedom. Neophyte means new. It's just like being a neophyte on a pledge line. How many of you are in a sorority? Shout out your sorority in the comments. How many of you are in a sorority, or you have been a part of something that you had to pledge, that you had to go through the process? I mean, you even can go through a process when it comes to of initiation, when it comes to the band. Especially those of you who are from the South, and you know that we value the band. There's a process that you go through with that. If you've been in the military, they call it Hayes Week, right? So I don't want you to think literal. Yes, I want to anybody that's in a sorority or fraternity, if you're slipping in and watching. But my second question is for those of you who've ever played a team sport. You know, you had to operate in the team, for the team, that type of thing, but you had to go through a process to get into it. So when you think about going through a process for sport and play, when you think about going through a process for your because being a part of a sorority is community service driven initially, or at least that's one of the qualifiers. And then there's a phase of your own, you being a part of it, where membership has its privileges. It gives you access to certain things. You all with me? Can you agree with that? Because I see my computer doing some things and I want to see what this is. Okay, this is not you all. This is my USB device giving me a notice. So I'm going to stay focused. So when you think about where you are on the journey, I think what happens is just like, oh, good. So thank you for that. So anybody that's in a sorority, I want to shout you out. Any sorority, right? But then also, if you've ever had to go through an initiation process of anything. Some people, and I'm not talking about an orientation process, but you can maybe relate to an orientation process when you get a new job, right? But oftentimes when we think about our process in terms of where we've been in terms of religion or anything that we've been in bondage, we tend to look at the event and not the process. And so there is a system of awakening, and there are stages of awakening, liberation, light, enlightenment. And one of the things that I want to put on around this is there's not necessarily a destination. So if you have had destination consciousness, then that absolutely can make sometimes feel like you're never getting there. And so where is there? So I want you all, I'm going to ask you all some questions. If you have a journal, write down the questions or add your comments in the comment section, because what I want to offer to you is this. I want you to think about freedom in terms of language. And I want to start with the basics of the language. I love that somebody said the closest I've done to initiation or awakening is Juicy Spirit rites of passage. And somebody remind me to talk about rites of passage and their role in this developmental process. As one who has a degree in human development and psychology, one of the things that we study is the phases of our development. And so when you come in, I want you to put in if you consider yourself awakened, you with me? Let me do something here. I want to ask you a question really quick. Can you do that? If you consider yourself awakened, do you remember what the catalyst is that awakened you? Hopefully I didn't change anything. So if you're joining in from different areas, I just want you to jump into this conversation. So tell me what stage you awakened in. What stage you think you awakened in? Was it personal? Was it a religious experience? Was it something that happened in your life that made you say, this isn't right, let me explore this a little bit more? And so I want you to look at your entry point really quickly, personally, to freedom, and freedom. When I say freedom, I'm talking about awakening, enlightenment, personal development. For some people, it may even be sales. Do you know that some people come into awakening and freedom, personal freedom, through literally just trying to study sales and how to get people to do what they want them to do? And as a result of stumbling on this ancient wisdom, something else is awakening. So good ancient wisdom can be used again, in any atmosphere. When you're talking about truth, universal truth, it can be applied anywhere. And this is where we start to look at spiritual abuse, or we start to feel like, oh, I didn't have to do it that way. There's another way that I could have done my life. That's a very specific call. Many people are called, but few choose to answer this call to freedom. So let's explore, since we've been talking about overcoming religious bondage, we've been looking at some of your freedom stories, your individual freedom stories, right? And the reason why I want you to look at it, I want you to look at it as an entry point, an access point. Now, here's the teacher part of me. I want to break this down some more. When you look at freedom and the language of freedom, consider it in three categories of mind, body, and spirit. Because when you look at your freedom story, now I want you to take the question that I just asked you, how did you enter? And look at, did you enter because of intellectual curiosity? Something needed to shift in your mind, your mindset, your mental wealth, your mental health. What needed to shift? And when you look at it in terms of the language of freedom, did you enter in through your mindset? Because oftentimes our mind is set on a particular way of thinking, being, doing, communicating with the world. Okay. So when you look at it, did you come in through your mind? Your freedom was your access point, mind. Was it body? It could also be body. So what do I mean by body? Sometimes when people come to do the work with me, you will come in through this experience of wanting to experience pleasure and more pleasure. And so so many of you who may have come in through the rites of passage process or through reading my book, because my book is all about freedom. This whole part lays the foundation for those who doubt, who wonder, how could a minister be on this cover? That's the beginning of my freedom story, is being able to be, as someone said, I love how you are free in public. I just don't know any other way to be free. Is this just be who you are in private? But anyway, let's continue. So then the body. Then let's look in terms of spirit. Mind, body, spirit. Did you come into awakening because you are already a spiritual person? This is where religion comes in. And so this is also where your chart comes in. And so we get activated. Can you agree that we get activated at different points? And so I'm asking you to look. Greetings to everyone who's coming in the room to say hello. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do you mind sharing this out so that I can focus on serving you? And so good. I see you all answering the question. Mindset needed to shift. Some people say it was personal. And sometimes it can be your heart, a matter of the heart. And so when it's a matter of the heart, sometimes it's general. Sometimes it can be your money. It can be your purpose. Okay, so I want to break it down for rebirth with Latanya language. So that's information. So now when you look at where you came in, whether it be mindset, body, because when I say body, it could be your personal health. It could be your personal health that gets you to stop eating a certain way and stop doing a certain thing, or you have to start doing something in order to preserve your health. That's the body. The body could not be performing in the way that you want the body to perform, right? And so you say, so this is where women who are seeking to have more orgasms in their relationships will come. Women who are seeking to have more orgasms will come to do the work to say, okay, why aren't I want to have these explosive orgasms. That's a lot of times people who want to do juicy, they may start, or their relationship is in trouble. Your relationship is in trouble. And so that may start the journey to say, why do I keep attracting this type of person into my life? These are all good questions. And my point is, when we start talking language, we tend to assume when we start talking spiritual language that everybody is on the same page. Now I want to break this down, get in here and get out of here. I know I do a lot to lay the foundation so that everyone can have the context, because I recognize in terms of being a spiritual teacher, differentiated education, everybody's coming in at different levels. And so that's why it's dangerous sometimes to just talk as though everybody's on the same level. And I understand that I'm going to be too deep for some and just scratching the surface for others. I accept that, because I know where I am on my journey, and I want to be able to serve you in this way. So we've broken that down. Now, when you look at your entry point, if you were to describe it, was it pain? Was it pleasure? Was it profit? I know that I'm getting you to think, but you didn't come in here on here to be entertained. I'm actually inviting you to think about what I'm proposing here. You didn't come to be entertained, right? Even though Facebook largely is developed for entertainment, these social media platforms. So this is really a conversation for adepts. This is a conversation for those who are seekers, those who are committed to the journey. This is not a conversation for the spiritually lazy. This is not a conversation for those who are afraid. This is not a conversation for those who are judgmental. The people who are constantly judging, who listen to what you're saying and say, this is not of God, this is of the devil, this is this. Thank you for answering the questions as I continue to set this up. A lot of people are saying that you came in through pain. That's okay. We're going to stay with that. The language of freedom. So if I come in through pain, or I come in through pleasure, or maybe I come in through profit, we are going to be oftentimes speaking at different levels of. Some people come in through choice. You choose it. Something in you needs to be free. It needs to express. If you're watching, share this out with your friends, please. Say, watch this. Come check this out. Girl, do you want to be free? The process is really the activation, my loves. The process is the activation. Now, those of you who came in through pain, are you still handling your relationship with your freedom, with your activation, with your enlightenment, with your manifestation through pain? Or are you handling it through some other ways? This is where a coach, a counselor comes in to give you tools to have other options to look at how you are responding to your life with the tools that you already have. Now, some of us come into this journey with tools. Our upbringing can be tools. Like, we don't come all the time as a blank slate. But when we come into this journey and talking about freedom and that type of thing, you know, when you haven't been given any context to put this in, the next thing is that you can make a lot of assumptions. Okay. Let's stop right here at the process, because then I want to give you some stages of awakening. I love that some of you all came in through purpose, but purpose doesn't even exempt you from the process. Ooh, that's good for somebody. Ooh, the purpose doesn't exempt you from the process. Pleasure doesn't exempt you from process. Profits, if you're coming in to grow your business and your brand, or to grow your family's foundation, your financial education, it does not exempt you from the process. So let's talk about the process. Y'all with me? Somebody just shout out the process. In fact, why don't you put P power in this conversation? P power. Y'all know I like to work with the power of the P, but there's power in the process. That P. Because those of you who want to know the power of the P, from the sensual, from the tantric, from the orgasmic, oftentimes you want to override and skip over the process power and into only the P power. Well, the P power is unmistakable. Thank you for the P powers. Put the P power in here. Come through, P power. So here's what I always say. This is my favorite line for those of you who are on the journey. You are not going crazy. You are just waking up. But there will be times where you may feel like you don't have any P power. You don't have any power for the process. You don't have any power for your own potency. You don't have any power for the yoni. So when we talk about spiritual awakening, when we talk about pain, here's language. Some of us came in through something called the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul. Some of us had an event that happened. The event could have been our lives. It got our attention. Because the truth of the matter is, some of us are so programmed by other events in our life, by other systems, other institutions, that if you didn't have pain, you would not have even given any attention to your own self, to your own process. You with me? So the dark night of the soul. So y'all with me? Y'all studying with me? Put dark night of the soul in the comments. The dark night of the soul. This is when you feel like you're crazy at times. When there's a crisis. When something just isn't fulfilling anymore. This is when you say that you're coming in through pain, a heartbreak, a disappointment, spiritual abuse, because that means that you oftentimes have been a part of an organization or an institutional way of thinking, and then an event happens that makes you say, enough. Let's talk about the process. Now, when you're in this dark night of the soul, what you do with yourself determines whether you free yourself or further allow yourself to stay held captive by your thinking, your thought process, by your returning to the same habits in terms of your physicality, returning to the same language that enslaved you, colonized you, or placed you in a position where you don't feel like you have spiritual authority. You with me? So now you go through for the dark night, for those who know, you might have come in through pain or the dark night of the soul. What about those of you who did come in hoping, believing, wishing, praying, and those of you who were seeking orgasm, those of you who were seeking just to feel good, feel good. That's a song I like. It's an indie song. I can't, if I start fooling with things, I won't be able to stay on track. So let me stay focused. But I hear those lyrics, feel good. Some of us don't even know how to feel good. And so when I teach Juicy, I always say many of us have more of a capacity, a reference point, an understanding, a trust, a belief in pain, that you don't believe that pleasure can facilitate as much transformation and healing. How do I know this? I'm sensitive to this because I have gone through these. I probably was at, even though when I look back and I talk about my life, I can look back and see where my steps are being ordered. I want to encourage somebody that's watching, your steps are being ordered, even if you feel like there are times where you're disoriented. There's times where you are afraid that you are getting too far away. The disorientation is necessary. There are phases in your process that are necessary. So check this out. If you didn't come in from pain and you came in through hoping, wishing, praying, looking to go higher, it's okay. You just came in at a vibration and a step higher than the vibration of pain, crises, upset, breakdown, loss, because for some of you, that's the only thing that gets your attention. I'm not asking you to do a confession now, but I do want you to chart yourself when we talk about this language of freedom. Okay, so we established that, right? So you may have come in through a meditation, a prayer, or just the feel-good experience. Then there's this stage of curiosity. You may have come in there. So far, I've talked about 3 different access points after we established just some foundational principles. The access point of curiosity. Now, when I say access points, I want you to hear something. How you access yourself is not a one-time event, just like how you access information. And so when you get to a phase, right, the desire, the seeker part of you, how many of you consider yourself a seeker? A seeker. Not when I say seeker now, I really mean a real seeker, meaning you are willing to study and show yourself approved. Or how many of you have inherited, conformed, adopted, accepted? And that's the story of many of us. Are you with me? Okay. I'm going somewhere with this. Let me pause here, because once I get into some other stages, the last stage, in terms of the introductory, okay, good. We got some seekers in here. You're in good company. Seekers need to be around a lot of times other seekers, but there's a place where you stop seeking, because sometimes the destination is always outside of yourself. But let me go back into this real quick. I want to present another 4th place, right? And that's denial and inner conflict. Somebody say, wait, I thought you said the dark night of the soul was the painful event. I'm talking about stages now of development. What I want to propose to you, whether you came in through pain, pleasure, and curiosity, those 3, it doesn't matter. Everybody gets to a phase of denial and inner conflict. So I want to go back a little bit and break down the 4 possibilities, even before I go to elevate to the next few stages. I want to do that real quick. and I'm almost at my time, okay? Before we get to the stage of this freedom makeover, I want to establish something around language. Because on this journey, I have made an assumption many times that people who speak the language, who read the same things, that they may be on the same level in terms of values, expression, and experience, and that's not necessarily the case. And also, there is this phase of shifting, like when you are on the journey to freedom, it's really easy to get stuck in the loop of the first 3 stages and stay there. And how you know is denial and conflict will send you right back into the pain, the pleasure, or the curiosity experiences just in terms of just understanding that, right? Why? Because many of us have not broken the habit of being ourselves. That's good. I'm gonna pause. Is that good to somebody? Is that good to somebody? Many of us have not broken the habit of being the self that we have known. So when I talk about rebirth, when I talk about juicy, there is a process that we can find ourselves in the loop, even in the awakening, even in the freedom, and we can get stuck and wonder why we're not making progress, why we still feel the same way, why you find yourself angry, frustrated, hurt feelings, and that type of thing. Here's what I want to talk about really quickly. And I love it because Dr. Michael Beckwith is the one who really says this in such an amazing way. In the first few stages that I have described, it is easy to get stuck in the stage of to me. It's happening to me. This is language. If you are still using language of what somebody did to you, who you don't like, what you don't like, you oftentimes are still in victim mode looking at what happened to you. Somebody's always doing something to you. Somebody's pissing you off. Somebody doesn't like you. And people do this with coaches, with counselors. And so when it works when you work it, but when you're not working it, somebody else is at fault, and their technology doesn't work. And so, and this is why I'm getting you to I'm asking you to look at this, because if you just left the church, the mosque, the community development program, angry, frustrated, and you have not done the work to neutralize that from it happened to me, you will not be able to move in the phase of freedom where it's happening through me or for me. So you set up authority because many of us have not done the work or been called on it. So that's why in the conscious community, spiritual community is very dangerous, and where spiritual abuse happens, because you have all of this high science and this people speaking the language, but there has not been any process to give you tools of when you are still looking at what's happening to you. So you will be annoyed by your teachers at a certain point, because when they try to move you out of a comfort zone to freedom, and it's phases. If the people who you admire or go to for support for your next level was to give you everything that they've been through, or if they were to give you the source code, many of us would be blown out of the water and would not believe it anyway. This is the stage of denial and conflict. And guess what? You're going to hit this phase if you are the ones who say you're committed to the journey. You're going to hit the phase where your cognitive dissonance shows up again. That's another word of freedom, cognitive dissonance. because the tool of rebirth is to be able to recognize your cognitive dissonance in any area of manifestation or any area where something keeps on showing up in your life that you don't want there. But you can also look at what's showing up in your life that you have wanted and see your magic, find your magic, call on that. But that's not oftentimes our go-to place. So y'all ready? So when you're just looking at what's happening to you, then that's why I don't care what kind of spiritual information that you have, you will continuously talk about the man. You will talk about the person. I don't care. You could have a tribe. You can be leading people. And this is why it's okay for folks sometimes to call out other people as a fraud, as a scam. But you attracted them. So then that's another phase of spiritual development when you starting to look at, okay, wait a minute. I'm connecting to all things. And this is where we start to want to get positive. Positive thinking, no negativity, good vibes. This is the beginning of freedom. Healing. Healing is a process. Liberation is a process. Transformation is a process. Manifestation is a process. Freedom. I'm talking freedom. Because it's oftentimes easy to say you were free because you had one event that woke you up, but you're not necessarily free. One event. And then you start to have more events where you start to feel the calcification and the scales fall off of your eyes, and your gateways of yourself, of your hearing you hear different. You see different. But sometimes the place of feeling different is where we get the deceptive intelligence. Because many of us have been taught to believe if we feel, and especially if you're gifted and you're an intuitive and you are a feeler like me, sometimes you've taken on other people's emotions and you don't know how to clean yourself. You don't know how to do anything with your energy, repurpose the energy, and you walking around with certain things that you don't even know that's not even yours. Y'all with me? Hallelujah. Amen. Ouch. What we got going on in here? Talk to me. Freedom Church. Talk to me now, Freedom Church. The phase of somebody's doing something to me. And sometimes you feel the need to go tell them off, call them out. Or sometimes in good effort, you recognize that you were the one who was functioning in your disability because our mental health becomes a disability when we repeat thoughts over and over again. I might have to slow down. You might have to listen to me again on this. This is one of these messages that moved me to tears because I wanted breakthrough for someone who I had been helping. And who and time again, sometimes when you support someone, you need to know what stages you're in, even as the helper, because your desire sometimes to rescue, your desire to rescue, to save, to help, is attached to your ego. And so when we're talking about freedom, and I see already, I'm probably going to have to either do a teaching part 2 because I'm going over my time. I want you to understand that I'm not even halfway through the stages. And the reason why I'm doing this is also because we won't ask for the support and the help because sometimes we don't know that it exists, or we have so much pride connected to it. And there were times in my life where I rejected the very help that was designed to set me free because I hit this stage of the spiritual, before I even got to the spiritual makeover, where denial was coming up and I was questioning because of one of those entry points. Because many of us psychologically have a habit. And what happens is when it gets too uncomfortable, we go back to it. And judgment is one of the things that will throw us right back into the recycle. So let me continue. And then I really do want to, I wish there's a way for me to stop recording and open up for questions. So maybe, how many of you feel like you have some questions about what I just presented already? Put a Q in the comments. Just put a Q. If it's more than 5 to 10 Qs, I'll come into Rebirth Woman just to have a chat and chill, just a conversation. So let's agree to get through this. Membership does have its privileges. If you're watching on YouTube, come join us over here. I want someone who really wants to be free to hear this, or is free but judges yourself, because sometimes you don't even know how free you really are, and it's so easy to want to dumb down, play small, or even become a little bit arrogant about the way you express it, because you don't trust authority, you don't trust anybody to guide you. When you've given all of yourself to a religion, to an institution, to a degree, and now you telling me I spent all these I was about to say millions, but it probably soon it will get to that. But if we looked at what we pay in student loans after we get these degrees that we cannot apply in our marriages and our love, our sex, and our money, we need to be asking some freedom questions. Because many of us have been taught how to go to school to be educated fools and slaves. Not saying that education is a bad thing. Of course, as a teacher, I believe in the process, but the way we have been educated, I even have been hearing, the more that I study money, I didn't really know the data. I knew the data around psychology, because you study it, And so when you talk about the psychology of sales and the psychology, the mind control, like it's a real thing in terms of marketing and sales. But I didn't recognize that Rockefeller took certain types of education out of the school system because he wanted to create employees, not entrepreneurs. Entrepreneur is another way, access point into freedom. So those of you who are out there hollering, you want to be an entrepreneur, I want to work for myself, I want to be free, know what you are praying for. So let me continue. At a certain point of your spiritual makeover, you've had enough signs to say, I gotta shift this. You've heard enough people. You've been hurt by enough people. You've tried all that you know, but you know that there's something more out there. You don't necessarily know where it is or where anything could shift in terms of your stage of spiritual makeover. But this is the stage where you recognize things are happening for me, as Michael Beckwith says. This spiritual makeover phase, where you know that there's a oneness between you and your word. There's a oneness between you and what you. So now all of the scriptures that you have read become a living word with another understanding. Because when you understand why, you tend to be more committed to the what. Now, if the what is outside of you, we still have a place to tweak. Okay, so let me continue. But then there's a phase in freedom where we meet something called the ego. Somebody put ego in there. Spiritual language. We're talking about freedom language, ego. For all intents and purposes, easing God out. You may have called ego devil, Satan. You may have called ego the enemy. But when you start to understand freedom, you start to say enemy. The enemy is the inner me's. And at this stage of spiritual ego can be dangerous, because this is the phase where you think you know everything, you think you're free, and you're judging everybody else by your for me. Oh, the world is for me. I'm going to speak this language. I'm embodying all of this stuff. You with me? But the ego If you focus on the go part, it sends away everything that's like love. So everybody doesn't even need to do this. One thing I learned, my husband taught me this, and it used to piss me off. And I probably have pissed some of you off. You don't need to tell me in the comments. I'm clear. That's as an interrupter. That's your coach is not supposed. Your counselor, your mentor is not there for you to be beat up on them when you don't like what you hear. I've done it though. So when y'all do it to me, sometimes I definitely am like, oh, I get it. And what that made me do sometimes is take in abuse from those of you who were in various phases. And what that would also do is I would take it. I would take the high road. But it's not okay. It's not okay to abuse me. I don't need to know you didn't like me. I don't need to know that your spiritual teacher does not need to know that. But I'm saying this to you so that you maybe can see yourself when you get triggered, so you don't run, so you don't shut down, so you don't need to throw up on anybody. Or furthermore, that you don't need to go and announce to everybody. Do you know how many shams and different things that I've gotten caught up in, been disappointed if I had come and outed people? And then the atonement would be even difficult, because when you mishandle and judge people, places, and things, it's to your benefit to atone and bring yourself through forgiveness into alignment with, it's not happening to me. Things are happening for me, especially the things that I've chosen, before you can get to it's happening through me. When you get to it's happening through me, then you start to get grounded. You begin to get serious. Wait a minute. If it's showing up in my world, how did I attract it? How can I shift it? How can I create it, recreate it? How can I rebirth it? How can I make it juicy? You feel me? Especially those of you in the tribe. You feel me? This is where you begin to get grounded and you start to read and ask questions. This is where, even though it may be a process, you like, okay, well, what's the process? And then this is where the quantum begins to happen, where it doesn't take as much time, where you're not in breakdown as much, that you don't begin to talk about what's happening out there as much, where you don't let the news program you. You know that if it's a main event on the mainstream, that you need to go within and say, let me check in on the back, what's happening that's not reported, if you care, if that's your assignment. But either way, if it's happening in my world, wait a minute, let me check in. This is when you look to say it's happening through me. But baby, the adept, let me talk to the adept. And many of us, it took a long time for me to talk about the adept, because or myself as an adept, but because I didn't want to be in this destination consciousness. There's the phase of it's happening as me, creator, the I am consciousness. I'm creating it all. Even the world I see can be changed by my shift, my rebirth. Too deep? Talk to me. Is it too deep? Talk to those of you who are watching, because many of you run away, turn down. And I'm saying, turn down for what? Is this too deep, or just scratching the surface? Too deep or just scratching the surface? Because this has economic implications. When we can get through all of this conflama, this is what Iyanla calls confusion and drama, returning to cycles, blaming other people, putting the responsibility of spiritual leaders to save you, to rescue you, but yet at the same time being coachable, teachable, that you trainable. This means that you absolutely have to be able to shift. And I know this is layered. Thank you for those who put the cues. Again, if you want to do a specific question and answer, I'll come back into Rebirth Woman, and let's just have a chat and chill. Too deep or just scratching the surface? This has economic implications because this shows up in our money. It shows up in our relationships. It shows up when it's time for us to go to the next level of our consciousness. Some of us are destined to be leaders. Some of you, how can you be a leader when you can't handle breakdown? You can't take feedback because it's a dangerous place. Even though this world is awakening and freedom is happening, when you don't have accountability, when there's no place for you to check in with your mind, your mindset, we have to have a place to check in. Elders have provided that in many communities. But because many communities where people who have been elders or have spiritual authority, like pastors, like priests, like even coaches, there has been so much spiritual abuse that there's so many people who get to the point of as me quicker than those who may have gone through the point of for me, you know what I'm saying, or through me. And so when you get there, you're like, okay, well, I can't trust anybody. I'm self-directed. And that's wisdom is here. Young men for war, old men for counsel. But that's not just about humans. That's about ancient wisdom that's on the planet. That's Mayat. That's Mayat. Mayat is accountability. Go study the 48 laws of Mayat. This is stuff that's been here since antiquity. And many of you melanated people are antiquity people, and you keep on trying to fit the information of this Western Hemisphere into your DNA that is already ancient. You were supposed to awake your ancient DNA. Your ancestors knew that this information had to be hidden, and the way to come through it is you got to go through the phases. We had mystery schools that took you through the phases of initiation. We had mystery schools, and some of the remnants of the mystery schools are still here through the Orishas. You hear that through the Orisha talk. You hear some of that's just the lowest end, when we had mystery schools where people had to swim to get to the next test. Oh my God. I mean, like when you start to study, this is not new. So what's happening is when we talk about rites of passage, many of us are experiencing our rites of passage through our willful ignorance and through our desire, our fear-based reality that is not necessarily associated with who you are or who you have been, but who you are becoming, to your bloodline. And you may be the one that's called to be free to go through these phases, right? You may be the one, and that's the time when you ask, why me? And my question to you is, why not you? Would you like to recommend somebody? Would you like to give your power to somebody else when you are the one? Because all is self. We keep on going through these phases of learning and shedding. Many of us go and stay in the first four phases of this language that I describe, because we get stuck in a way, and you learn one thing just to give it up so that you can make room for the next thing. If you are still stuck on your old religion, that's why you can't get new results. Now, there are some remnants that we call old religion, that really is ancient wisdom that's just been coded in symbols. And this is the metaphysics. This is the study of self. This is the understanding codes and commerce and law. Because when you can rebirth your mind, let's go back to the beginning, your body and your spirit, you are more susceptible to be able to attract the resource, the provision for the vision that you have for yourself in love, sex, or money. Somebody catch that. Catch that T. When you begin to free yourself, mind, body, and spirit, back to the beginning. And then the rebirth way, when you start to get tools through purpose, pleasure, and passion, and profits. That's where we are in this season with Rebirth 360 in the business incubator. I had to literally walk through even the process of being able to teach higher wisdom, because some people was not even ready to receive the commerce business information, because the religious mind still has handcuffs. We're still looking for somebody to give us permission. Juicy oftentimes gives people permission to just be free. In the senses. The senses are a gateway to other senses. There are levels to this. So we think there's 5, but there are hundreds. You all are sense beings. We are sense beings. And then there's the last stage where you are the adept, as me, where you are coming out of the spiritual closet. You are not worried about people pleasing. You know that what you're in alignment with your divine assignment. You know what you're here for, and you can and this is where purpose begins to take over and become manna. And there's more to this story. There's more to the freedom story, but I wanted to just get some language out here. Just wanted to get language. And then there's even more language. I'm going to start just a little series. Make sure you're following me on Instagram. Mainly, I don't know, it feels good. It feels better posting on Instagram. I'll repost here, but if you see it, comment, like, share. I'm going to start talking about some of these energy codes for freedom. And if you are one of the ones who are interested in the religious recovery, I have something for you that I beta tested almost 7 or 8 years ago at this point, and now it's ready. That's a good example. Even what you have called forward for yourself goes through phases. Sometimes the wealth has not shown up to match, your process. Sometimes the vision that you have is so big that our personal development needs to catch up to it so we can be ready to receive what you've been called to. I cannot even tell you how many times that the door was open, the window was open. I was chosen, I was picked, I was anointed, I was appointed, but I felt I was not ready. It didn't matter who somebody else thought that I was ready. I had to get ready in this process of finding out where I was, especially with taking in so many information. And I cannot underscore enough the unlearning process. And those of you who are educators and you know about unlearning, especially those of you who are homeschooling by choice and not by force, holla at your girl. If you are a homeschooler by choice, the person who makes the choice for freedom versus those who are forced into freedom have a whole different freedom story. And with that, I'll take my leave from you. I will see you in Rebirth Woman. It's been my honor to share. I know this is deep, but here's the thing. My Instagram is Latanya Taylor Media. Thank you for asking. Here's the thing. I can only be who I'm called to be. I understand that for some of you it's too much. For others, it's not enough. For those of you who don't even want to hear it, I understand. Change the channel. You have that option. We can all change the channel. I'm no longer hiding in any of my freedom and any of my worry anymore. It comes up, but I cannot, when it comes to freedom, you got to be about it. So I'm out. I said I was going to say, if I keep on talking, so will they. So through me, as me, in me. That's my prayer. That's why when you hear me pray, Mother, Father, God, Holy Spirit, all that is in me, as me, and through me. When you begin to change your language in your prayers, you begin to change your language in your conversations. Then you begin to change your language in the narrative and the story that you tell yourself about for me, as Michael Beckwith says, or excuse me, to me. Something's happening to me. Something's happening through me. And excuse me, for me, then through me, then as me. Those are just the basic phases. But in there, I describe several more in just summary. So I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Can you work with me? Absolutely. Come into Sacred Juice, where we are doing monthly mindset coaching sessions, self-study on your own. Come into the business incubator. Get your business in order. Mind your own business. Get your LLC. I'm teaching things in there that I wish other people had told me, that where I didn't have to struggle for 4 and 5 years in business because my mindset was messed up, or because I just inherited more of an employee mindset. Yes, can you work with me privately? Absolutely. Check out LaTanyaTaylor.com. But most of all, text 844-601-0700. Text Rebirth 360 to get your Shift Everything gift. I got something special for the Shift Everything crew coming in about the next 30 days, but we just got to get in position so we can prosper. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'll see you all on the other side. I'm going into the group because that's what Spirit told me to do. And I'll see you all in Rebirth Woman. I love you. Ciao.